ETERNATUS reaching top 8, the world winning Miraidon team still proving its dominant, and LUNALA proving that its last regional wasn't a fluke. Welcome everybody to a brand new VGC video, and today we are going to be talking about the Stockholm regional that has just transpired this past weekend. We're going to be talking about some of the top teams that's come through this past weekend, as well as talking about the top used Pokemon throughout Saturday and Sunday, and it's going to be quite a doozy. So kick your feet up, get a nice drink, and maybe while you're at it, maybe hit that like and subscribe button. Helps me out a ton. But let's start things off with some teams that I thought was very interesting, starting off with the number 5 pick done by Federico Camporetti with the world's winning Miraidon team, with a little bit of a twist here and there. So the first thing we're going to talk about is of course the Iron Hands. It's pretty much a standard Iron Hand set, Assault Vest, Terra Water as well to stay clear of Ice Rider CALYREX, as well as other things like ground types as well, which is quite nice, as well as Fake Out, Low Kick, Heavy Slam, and Drain Punch. We're not seeing Wild Charge anymore because Low Kick just works a lot better, since one, you get stab damage off of the fighting types, you get the boost off of Quirk Drive as well with Miraidon, and just because you have Miraidon there as well that has Volt Switch and Electro Drift, you don't really need a third Electric type move, especially on a Pokemon that's so slow and you're not in a Trick Room set. So it works out pretty well for Iron Hands as well, and it's also a way to get rid of really big threats like, again, Ice Rider CALYREX or even Zamazenta, which is very, very nice. We have the Covert Cloak Whimsy going into Terra Dark with the Prankster, Moonblast, Tailwind, Light Screen Encore, same standard set for Whimsicott, nothing out of the ordinary there. The Rapid Strike Urshifu with the Mystic Water going into Terra Water as well, Surging Strikes, Taunt, Aqua Jet, and Detect. Again, not really going into the close combat set that we're used to seeing for Urshifu, because again, Iron Hand seems to take it with 2 fighting type moves there, so you don't really need, again, a third typing of move on a different Pokemon, just to kind of like fill in that gap. So Taunt works as well as a very good pick. We've seen a lot of the time that Surging Strikes in close combat was the case and Aqua Jet was replaced with Taunt, but I guess this time around, again, we swapped out the close combat for Taunt on this one, but still kept the priority Aqua Jet, which can always be nice, especially in a pinch on Pokemon that has like Focus Sash or things like that. So it's a very nice kind of one-off hit that you need for extra priority, so I respect it. We have the Half Flame Ogerpon with Ivy Cudgel, Spiky Shield, Follow Me, and this time we run Focus Energy. Now this is quite interesting. I've been seeing a lot of Focus Energy Ogerpons sprouting up a lot more recently, which is quite interesting. So normally for Ogerpon you see something like Wood Hammer or Horn Leech or Power Whip or things like that, a nice grass type move to kind of get it nice and rounded. But honestly, this is really, really useful. This is really, really good, because that Focus Energy means that you are more likely to crit. You add that on top of that Ivy Cudgel, which also has another chance to crit. You basically guaranteed to hit a crit on your next turn. So it makes Ogerpon a very, very big threat to deal with, because you could either keep Ogerpon there, have the Mold Breaker, and get rid of any Pokemon that you want to. So things like Lunala is going to be in trouble, things like Terrapagos is going to be in trouble, or you can go into the Terrafire to just hit big +1 critical hit Ivy Cudgel damage, which is just absolutely insane. So it's a very nice kind of way to just make sure this Ivy Cudgel does get a crit, which I am all for a fan of, in just an exchange of getting rid of a grass type move, which to be fair, a lot of the times it does kind of affect Ogerpon, not the best of times. Like Wood Hammer is fairly solid, it's the biggest damaging grass type move it has, but it comes at a cost of having recoil, and Ogerpon isn't exactly the bulkiest Pokemon. Horn Leech is probably the weakest, and it does gain you back HP, but again, it's the weakest. It's not exactly going to pick up KOs as frequently as something like Wood Hammer, and Power Whip is kind of like a good in-between, but the only problem is it's not as accurate, where it's like you don't get recoil, but at the same time you're more likely to miss in comparison to something like Wood Hammer, where you're guaranteed to hit it but you're going to take recoil, or Horn Leech, where you're guaranteed to hit it but you're not going to do as much damage. So it's again depending on what you want, but with the Focus Energy it is also quite useful, because again you could just get this big fire damage outright from the gate, and then you could just kind of roll with the game from there. We have the Choice Specs Terra Fairy Miraidon, Electro Drift, Volt Switch, Draco Meteor, and Dazzling Gleam. Again, nothing out of the ordinary there, so pretty much nothing to complain about there. And finally is the Electric Seed Photograph with the Terra Water as well, having that Armor Tail, Trick Room, Psychic, Foul Play, Helping Hand. Again, same standard stuff. Sometimes you see Psychic Noise instead of Psychic, sometimes you might see Hyper Voice or even Dazzling Gleam here and there, but Foul Play again is quite useful. It helps deal with both forms of CALYREX. Photograph again is quite slow. You can match it up in Trick Room quite well, quite nicely. Helping Hand is just a nice support move if Photograph just kind of has like nothing to do. It's very nice. It's a very nice set for Photograph as well, but it's nice to see this world teams hitting like the top 8 or the top 6. It is very, very interesting to see that Miraidon still being a dominant force with this same team, even though it's almost been a calendar year since we've seen this team win worlds. It just goes to show that this team is such a dominant threat, and by far an S-class team to go for. Next up is the number 4 contender done by Jamie Boy, and it is a really interesting switch on a Koraidon team, which is also very interesting. So we have the Life Orb Koraidon, which we've seen from, obviously we've seen from EUIC. We have Close Combat, Breaking, Swipe, Flare Blitz, and Protect, which is quite interesting. We're used to the close combat because close combat does more damage with the life orb than it would do, for example, collision course, and it also doesn't need the sun to do extra damage from that. Close combat does just does bigger damage outright, which is again quite nice, and you need that with life orb, especially since you're getting that intimidated from Incineroar. Breaking swipe is also really good because it's kind of like your pseudo intimidate, so again you can just lower down attacks, which is quite nicely, and it hits both Pokemon at the same time. So again, really nice move to go for there. And then you have your Terra, Fire, Flare Blitz, which can just delete Pokemon in just the blink of an eye, which is absolutely insane. Next up is the Zoom Lens Terra Fairy Heatran. This is more kind of like, I want to kind of say this is more of a disruption purpose here. Magma Storm to keep them trapped in place. You got Terra Blast, Substitute just to be that little extra bit annoying, as well as having Protect. So Heatran's whole purpose there is just to get them trapped in the Magma Storm. If it's any fighting type Pokemon that you kind of want to get rid of and you don't have Flooded Mane around, you can just go Terra Fairy, Terra Blast, and just delete them. And Substitute just being like a natural annoyance as well, so you have to just double target the Heatran if you can't get rid of it, which just makes it more annoying, because that way Heatran can just keep laying out these Magma Storms, keep laying out Terra Blast, keep chipping away at your opponents little by little by little. And again, with that Substitute, it just makes it a whole lot harder to get rid of Heatran, so it's a very dominant force there. Next up is quite a surprise for me, Brute Bonnet. Now Brute Bonnet, I would never expect to see in the top 4. We've seen Brute Bonnet around for a while now, for a few regulations, and this guy has never been up that far. So to see him just kind of like excel to the top really goes to show that like the meta can still change in Regulation G, which I am a huge fan of. So going into that Covert Cloak as well, meaning that Fake Out just doesn't work. We've seen the same strat on Amoonguss, and going into Terra as well, again, same thing that we've seen on Amoonguss as well. It's quite a nice kind of pairing to go for like Brute Bonnet as well as Amoonguss. And again, its whole point is that it's a more aggressive, more physical attacking version of Amoonguss. You still have things like Seed Bomb, which can do massive grass type damage. You've got Priority Sucker Punch, which is also really, really good, something that Amoonguss doesn't have, but you still get access to its disruption moves like Spore and Rage Powder. So you can have Brute Bonnet to kind of be really supportive with Spore and Rage Powder to kind of disrupt the game if you need to. You've got Seed Bomb as just a nice grass stab coverage, and then if you really like want to just get these damages off, or just like break things like Focus Sash or anything like that, you've got Sucker Punch, which is quite nice as well. So Brute Bonnet is really there just to kind of be like, hey, I'm still here, pop off a little bit of damage, and it's like, oh, my teammate's in trouble, Spore, Rage Powder, my teammate's safe, we can just keep it going. It's very, very useful. Like I really do like this. I really do like this set for Brute Bonnet. I think it is absolutely amazing, and the Photosynthesis also means it's probably getting an attack boost. I didn't see Jamie Boy actually play this weekend. I didn't catch him on stream, but I want to assume that it was attack, but I did hear someone say it was a defense boost as well, which is very, very interesting. So I kind of want to see how that goes, but that is very, very interesting if it is. I would love to see one of those matches. If anybody's seen it, let me know, because this was insane. This was absolutely insane to see Brute Bonnet come up this high up. Next up is the Choice Specs Walking Wake. Now, this again is another interesting choice. Walking Wake being another Pokemon that was, you know, that had a lot of promise, but didn't really come up anywhere near the top spot. But now seeing it go into the top 4 is, again, really, really nice to see. Choice Specs as well is another really rare item that you see for Walking Wake, because normally you'd see it get paired up with Life Orb, but that goes to Koraidon. So now Choice Specs is just here to hit things a lot harder. You have that Hydro Steam, which is really, really good, being in mind that Hydro Steam isn't one of those water moves where it gets affected by the sun. If it's out, it does more damage in the sun as well as in the rain, so that's also quite interesting. We're also pairing up with Draco Meteor, Dragon Pulse, and Snarl as well to lower those special attackers, which is quite nice. I am a huge fan of this set. Like, the more I'm looking at this team, the more I'm like, this is really, really cool. Like, I'm a fan of this team. Next up is the Choice Scarf Chiyu, another choice Pokemon for this team, going into the Terra Fire, as well as having Overheat, Dark Pulse, Flamethrower, and Heat Wave. Now, normally for the Flamethrower slot, you'd run something like Snarl, but of course Walking Wake has that, so you kind of have that open slot there to kind of throw in something else. And I guess it makes sense to add in Flamethrower, because you don't want to have that -2 after Overheat, because you might want to keep Chiyu in as much as possible and not really want to, you know, switch him out into somebody else. And in the case there's a Pokemon that has Wide Guard like Zamazenta, Pelipper, or Mienshao, you don't really want to just get locked into Heat Wave and just be like, well, I'm kind of screwed and I have to take out Chiyu. So the best way to do it is to kind of get Flamethrower. That way it's like, it's a single target move that doesn't drop your stats and can get past Wide Guard, which is very, very nice. Like, it's a nice kind of come up there. And of course Dark Pulse just having that stab damage, as well as having a chance to flinch as well, which is, again, always a good thing. When you see that flinch happen, it's such a pain to deal with. And lastly is the Fairy Feather Flooded Mane. The amount of takes I've had to do to get that right is absolutely insane. Going into the Terra Fairy as well, Moonblast, Dazzling Gleam, Icy Wind, and Protect. So this team is very, very aggressive. The whole point of this is literally get the sun up and just do as much damage as you are physically able to do. And I am a fan of this concept. Like, we haven't seen an offensive Sun team like this in a hot minute. It's normally been kind of like a mixture of support and aggression, but this is just full-on aggression, and I am a big fan about this. And now we get into the top 2, starting at second place, done by Eric Rios with the LUNALA team. Now, this was interesting because LUNALA managed to win the last regional that we had, and the fact that it's managed to not just win the last regional, but get second place in the very next one shows that LUNALA was not fluking the first time round. It is a disgustingly good Pokemon to use. The typings is great, the ability works so well for it, and it really did go to show in this game, and I am a huge fan of this. So we're running a leftover set in comparison to something like the Power Herb that we're used to seeing before. This way you just kind of like get a bit more healthier. You can kind of afford to be a bit more bulky here, which again just works off so well for LUNALA as well. You can invest more into defense since you're running a Calm Mind as well, which is, spoiler alert, which is exactly what we're running. So you can kind of just invest more into your defense and just run a Calm Mind and just be like, right, cool, my defense is huge, my special defense is huge, my special attack is ready to go, and I can keep healing on top of that as well, and I also have an ability that takes off a chunk of damage if I'm at full HP. We're good. We're solid. We're golden. It is such a brute force to get rid of, and I'm a fan. So we also have Protect on top of the Calm Mind, as well as Moongeist Beam and Moonblast as well. It is an insane Pokemon to deal with. It is honestly such an insane Pokemon to deal with, and I am a huge fan of this. This is great. This is really, really good. Following that up, we have the Assault Vest Rillaboom. This is pretty much a standard set for Rillaboom here. Going into Terra Fire, Woodhammer, Grassy Glide, Fake Out U-Turn. Same standard stuff for that. I'm pretty sure it's the same standard stuff for Incineroar as well. Yep, Rocky Helmet. Going into Terra Water, Parting Shot, Flare Blitz, Fake Out Taunt. You could kind of go either which way about this, but Flare Blitz, either Flare Blitz or Knockoff makes a lot of sense here. Again, can't really complain. Pretty much standard stuff. We have the Boosted Energy Scream Tail going into Terra Grass. That way it doesn't get misled by things like Amoonguss, nor does it go to sleep as well if it's stuck in a Trick Room Amoonguss. With Protect, Disable, Dazzling Gleam, and Encore as well. Very disruptive Scream Tail, something that we're just used to at this point now. Going into the Cornerstone Ogerpon as well. Spiky Shield, Ivy Cudgel, Power Whip, Follow Me. Again, most times when you see Ogerpon Cornerstone, you would see a Power Whip, just because you don't want to get that recoil of Woodhammer like we mentioned earlier. And finally is the Tornadus, this time with the Ability Shield. I need to change this to Prankster as well, because I messed that up getting the paste. But the Ability Shield is very, very interesting. Going into Terra Dark means that you stay away from Pranksters, but Ability Shield means that you cannot get your ability changed or suppressed by things like Weezing, which is really, really, it's genius, to be quite honest with you. There are going to be times where Weezing is very much dominant in, you know, the metagame. It's a very good anti-meta Pokemon because abilities are just so huge for a lot of game plans with Pokemon. So having a Pokemon that can just kind of be like, no, I'm not going to worry about your gas, I'm not going to worry about neutralizing gas, I'm still going to run Prankster, I'm still going to run these Tailwinds, I'm still going to run these Rain Dances, I'm still going to hit you as much as I can, or make sure my team can hit you as much as they can, which is really good against Shadow Rider CALYREX. You set up that Tailwind, ignoring Weezing, and this LUNALA can just do a Moongeist Beam and absolutely floor this CALYREX, which is really, really nice. I am a huge fan of this as well. This is great. But we cannot talk about second place without talking about first place, and it is Michael Kelch's Hard Trick Room Ice Rider CALYREX team. Ice Rider back again with the Hard Trick Room. I've been saying for a while now that I think Ice Rider is at its peak inside of Trick Room, and I still hold to that to this day. I'm pretty sure we said this in the last regional video that we covered as well. If you guys want to check that out, link is in the description below. But yes, Ice Rider CALYREX is just a dominant force of nature. Like, this thing is a freak. This thing is an absolute freak. It runs Clear Amulet to make sure it doesn't get affected by things like Intimidate, which is always just good to have. Terra Fire as well, which is a really good defensive typing here for CALYREX as well. Glacial Lance, High Horsepower, Trick Room, and Protect. Standard stuff for Ice Rider CALYREX. Again, this is pretty much the set for CALYREX. It's not changed out of high level play. It's been pretty much the same. Next up is the Focus Sash Smeargle. Now, full discretion, I hate Smeargle. I really do. I'm not a fan of Smeargle. I think Smeargle is such a pain to fight, and it really did show because he came up here. He came up and he won. But yeah, Smeargle is just an absolute pain to deal with. Having that Technician as well, which means on top of not only being very, very annoying, it gets extra damage on top of a Fake Out as well. So it's just like a little added insult to injury here. But we also run Spore, Fake Out, Decorate, and Follow Me as well. Just a pure supportive set. and this guy just runs away with the game. Like, this guy forces his team to run away with the game. Having decorates for Ice Rider CALYREX means that you already get +2 outside of getting KOs with CALYREX, or like it's got special attack as well, so you buff up the Torkoals, the Raging Bolt, Urshifu. It's just a pain. It's just a straight up pain. And to keep itself safe, it's got Follow Me to keep its allies safe as well. Going Terra Grass, you're not scared of Amoonguss, you're not scared of, you know, other Pokemon, which is just absolutely insane. Like, it's crazy, man. I hate fighting Smeargles, I really do, but he's good for a reason. Smeargle's good for a reason. Next up is the Choice Specs Torkoal as well, with the Terra Fire, Eruption, Heat Wave, Earth Power, and Weather Ball. Pretty much when you set up Trick Room, Torkoal is the fastest thing ever on the field. Outside of priorities, you're pretty much not hitting Torkoal first, which is absolutely nuts to me, but the Choice Specs does help a lot, because you can go into Trick Room and go for that Choice Specs Terra Fire, some boosted Eruption, which would just literally annihilate anything. If you can't chip away this thing's HP or get rid of the sun or anything like that, you're in a lot of trouble. You're in so much trouble. Torkoal in Trick Room is probably one of the most oppressive Pokemon there is, and it is absolutely insane. But you also have other moves as well. Heat Wave is pretty nice, Earth Power also comes in clutch here, and Weather Ball as well. They all came in really good clutch here, which I am a super fan of. It was really nice. It was really nice to see Torkoal do well. I've got no gripes with Torkoal. It's pretty solid. We have the Choice Band Urshifu Dark also going into the Terra Grass, meaning that it can't get by-rided by things like Rage Powder as well, which is quite nice. Wicked Blow, Sucker Punch, Close Combat, and Iron Head. Now, this is also quite interesting, because normally in that 4th slot, we would see something like Poison Jab, or maybe U-Turn for Urshifu, but this time it's Iron Head, going straight away to hit Fairy types, which is really kind of crazy, because Fairy types also threaten not only Urshifu itself, but it threatens the Raging Bolt that we're going to talk about in a minute. So it's pretty nice here. It's a pretty nice way to see this. It also threatens other Steel types as well, like Ice Rider CALYREX. It's really solid. Like, it is really solid for Urshifu to have this as well, and just being able to hit so much damage because of the Choice Band, and also being able to run through Protect with Unseen Fist. This thing is just an absolute dominant force of nature that you need to stay away from. We have the standard Rocky Helmet Indeedee going into Terra Fairy, Follow Me, Trick Room, Psychic Helping Hand. Can't really complain much there. And lastly is the Safety Goggles Raging Bolt, which again is very nice. So this is normally in a ways to by-ride, again, Rage Powder, because a Rage Powder, I'm assuming, is just a way to kind of like really disrupt this team. So Michael really did find ways to counteract this. Things like a Smeargle having Terra Grass, Urshifu having Terra Grass, Follow Me off of Indeedee, Safety Goggles off of Rage Bolt. There are a lot of ways to bypass Rage Powder, which is absolutely insane. So having the Safety Goggles means that, yeah, if Rage Powder was to connect, you can still hit this Terra Electric Thunderclap, because normally if that wasn't the case, you wouldn't be able to use Thunderclap. Same with Sucker Punch. And you also have other things like Thunderbolt, Protect, and Draco Meteor as well, just to keep itself safe. Raging Bolt is an absolute dominant force as well. If you let this thing run with the game, it will chip away at your health bar before you even notice it's gone. This thing hits so hard, so frequently, you will never see it coming until it's way too late. Like, it is absolutely insane. But congratulations to Michael Kelch, and congratulations to everybody else. Everybody played fantastic, and everybody did very well. Good job to everybody who played this past weekend. It was absolutely insane. But now, one of my favorite parts of the video is where we talk about the most used Pokemon in both day 1 and day 2 of the tournament, and looking into the restricted of day 1. Shadow Rider CALYREX being up at the top spot at 24.4%. Shadow Rider CALYREX still being an absolute dominant force again. It's a very like easy Pokemon to kind of get through. It's very nice, it's very simple. Ice Rider CALYREX the same thing as well, and Miraidon as well. Seeing Lunala also conquering Groudon as well, which is insane, by the way, because normally we're used to seeing these 7 outside of Lunala, it's just swap for Groudon. But now that we're seeing Lunala instead of Groudon, it's really going to show how the meta's really changing here. It is crazy. It's really solid. And then going into the top 12 non-restricted Pokemon, Urshifu is just right up at the top. Like, can we really say anything else here? Over half of the people that went into this tournament last weekend use Urshifu. That is absolutely insane. And of course, the other 2 members of the big 3 are right behind them, with Incineroar and Rillaboom following up. It's absolutely insane. Amoonguss following up the Rillaboom as well at 24.4% as well. Half-Flame, Ogerpon. Grass types are becoming very dominant. But grass types are becoming extremely dominant. But I guess this is also because of, again, ignoring things like Spore from Amoonguss, ignoring things like Rage Powder. It's a very nice way, as well as being resistant to Urshifu as well, is also like a nice pick here there. We have the Raging Bolt following up at the 6th place slot, actually conquering over Floodamane, which is very interesting. Normally Floodamane is like the main past Paradox Pokemon that you would see, namely the main Paradox Pokemon you see take the top spot in that category, but now Raging Bolt kind of like overtook that spot, and it's not a big puzzle as to figure out why. Raging Bolt is super good on the defensive side. Its typing is very solid, and it just has really good offenses. It is a very solid Pokemon. Then following that up, we have Ogerpon Cornerstone. Again, Cornerstone and Half Flame are just the main 2 that you want to see there, which is just, it pretty much shows. Nobody he's using Teal Mask Ogerpon, and Wellspring is great, but unfortunately you just have a lot of other good water types. You can't really pair it with Kyogre that much, you can't really pair it with Urshifu that much, so it kind of makes sense that you do have this kind of chokehold on Cornerstone and Half Flame as an extension. Then following that up, we go into day 2, and if you saw my face when I looked at this card, this was insane. Eternatus managed to take the 8th place slot, which was absolutely insane, which means my buddy, my big shield doggo Zamazenta is not even in the top 8, and that is so upsetting. That was so upsetting. But Shadow Rider CALYREX is still at the top place spot with 28.6. Terapagos as well, staying very firm. See, I've always said Terapagos has always been consistently consistent. It's always been the case where Terapagos has always kind of shown out in like the 4th place slot or maybe in the 5th place slot, but now it's kind of becoming more consistent, and it's actually slowly crawling up. It was slowly crawling up the first time we had Regulation G, and now it's slowly crawling up again in usage. So maybe as time going by, maybe we might actually see Terapagos hitting the top place spot. On top of that, might even see winning a regional at some point down the line. So this is going to be very interesting here. Miraidon and Koraidon falling both down, Kyogre just sitting firm where it was. But yeah, Eternatus was a very interesting pick here, and I was talking to a buddy of mine and we were saying how Eternatus is just very underlooked, and it was great. Like, Eternatus is great. Seeing Eternatus there is absolutely great. It gets a chokehold on the Firewater Grass Calls that's so prominent as well in most teams. It's just an amazing typing. It is a very good typing. Poison and Dragon counter each other's weaknesses very well, and it's just, its moveset also like helps it counter its own weaknesses very well. Things like Flamethrower to get rid of ice types. It's just got like a whole bunch of good things for it, and I really think Eternatus is going to come up on, like, somewhere. I think Eternatus is going to show up a lot more. Like, I'm telling you now, he's going to come up a lot more. And then going into the top 12 non-restricted Pokemon of day 2, the big 3 just sitting firm in their top 3 slots. It feels like I'm just looking at the big bosses. It looks like I'm looking at the big bosses, just Rillaboom, Incineroar, and Urshifu just standing in their Emperor's chairs going like, you cannot get past us. We are the big 3. They are just so dominant in this metagame. It's absolutely insane. We also have the Amoonguss sitting firm at the 4th place slot. Raging Bolt come up just a little bit more, actually tying things up with Ogerpon here, both at 24.5%. And this was surprising. Indeedee, Clefairy, and Smeargle have all just popped up in the top place slot, which is insane, by the way. I don't think I've ever seen Indeedee this entire regulation come up in the top 12, but the fact that we're seeing Indeedee pop up here is really interesting, because it is the slowest terrain setter. It's even slower than Rillaboom, so the fact that you can kind of like get a dominant chokehold here on terrains, and it also helps with, again, things like Ice Rider CALYREX. It even helps with Shadow Rider CALYREX. It's a very dominant Pokemon to kind of just keep there and be like, right, I've got control of terrain by turn 0. I will always have control of terrain by turn 0, and my restricted teammates will always benefit from this, because I am always going to be making sure that they hit the follow me's. I'm always going to be making sure the Trick Room gets set up. Like, this is an absolute dominant force of nature, and I can't lie, Indeedee is very good. Another Pokemon I don't like coming up against, but Indeedee is very good, and I have huge respects for Indeedee. Clefairy was also quite interesting there. The Friend Guard is actually coming in clutch very well. Again, same thing as Indeedee. It's the follow me user. Having Friend Guard means that your teammate is just going to survive a lot more hits, especially if it's something like Ice Rider CALYREX, especially if something annoying like Shadow Rider CALYREX. It's really tough to get rid of them as it is, but the fact that you have a Clefairy that keeps your ally more healthy, with not only with its ability, but also has things like Life Dew. It's got things like Follow Me. And if you want to go like, oh, well, if it's Shadow Rider CALYREX Clefairy, I can just set up Trick Room. Clefairy's got after you, and it runs potentially like really slow. It runs slower than CALYREX. It can run slower than the Amoonguss. So it's like, oh, well, Trick Room's up. I could just CALYREX, you want to hit them first? And CALYREX go like, yeah, I'll hit them first. Astral Barrage gets rid of both of them anyway. Your threat is still not gone with Clefairy on the field. It's absolutely insane. And then Smeargle as well is also quite interesting, but again, Smeargle is also one of those Pokemon that can pretty much learn almost any single move, which is absolutely insane. So you have things like the Spores, like the Fake Outs, the Decorates, the Follow Me's. You can even get like a whole bunch of other random moves that it's got there. You can give it something crazy like Wide Guard even. You've got so much potential for Smeargle, and just because of how dominant this thing is and how crazy this thing can get, it's literally a random cesspool of moves, and you kind of just have to play on the fly whenever you see a Smeargle. It's absolutely insane, and that random factor really does play a lot well in this metagame. So it's going to be very interesting to see where exactly these guys come up. I want to see Clefairy do a lot more. I'm very excited to see how Clefairy gets paired up with a lot more Pokemon here. I am very, very excited. But let me know what you guys think about the new top 12 Pokemon. Let me know what you think about the top restricted Pokemon. And of course, let me know who your favorite player was this past weekend, as well as letting me know who your favorite team was this weekend. I had a blast watching some of these games. I'm probably going to catch up on a lot more of them. I definitely want to see more of Jamie Boyd's team. I want to see how that plays out a lot more, because that's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. You guys have been absolutely amazing, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Take care of yourselves, guys. I'll see you soon. Okay, bye.